Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to 3 more Snarled videos for Venom 0027 as a donation reward. Tonight we will be getting to the Late Night Messenger, Don't Use This Dating App, and I'm a 911 operator. So these are just the next 3 in line for me in my list. And yeah, we've done 2 of these now so far, and the second set was definitely better. It definitely had more of an interesting factor to it, and not just because there was more of a supernatural element than the first set, but just the stories were definitely much more interesting, much better. But let's talk about what we've got this time. So the Late Night Messenger. So this could equate to a few things. Obviously, late night is a commonly used idea for horror, having things happen during the night or especially late at night. And messenger, is it going to be like is someone coming to deliver a message? Is it going to be like an online messenger? What exactly is it referring to? Either way, there's some potential with that, I can see. I just don't know how it's going to equate. Don't Use This Dating App, I feel, is almost like a Goosebumps title. Like, it almost sounds like a Goosebumps title. But it kind of gives me this vibe like, okay, so the dating app is going to like connect you to someone bad or something. That's the only thing I can really get from it. It's not a huge amount to go off of, because it's like dating apps, like, yeah, you could say dating apps have some danger to them normally, just for obvious reasons. But then it's like you're trying to actually integrate like horror into it. So how do you do that without it coming off as too ridiculous? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. And I'm a 911 operator. Also, this one could mean a few different things too. I assume it's going to equate to like, okay, something's happening. Person feels scared or unsafe, calls 911, and maybe the person who they get on the other line is not actually a 911 operator. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from it. But these are all theories, of course. I mean, I could be completely wrong on all of them. I have no clue. And that's been proven with the first 2 sets we did of these. But we are going to do this third set. We're just going to get into this. Hope for the best, hope that they end up being not necessarily, again, scary, because as I said in past videos, these aren't really like super scary, even the best of them. It's more like they're just spoopy. They're just spoopy. They're fun, slightly spooky stories that it's like won't keep you up at night or anything. But just you can have a little fun too. It's like a campfire story. It's like telling a campfire story to friends. It's like it's not going to actually be that scary at all. But you're going to have fun with it. So let's just get into this and hope for the best. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the videos. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. This set was not as good as the second set. I'd say maybe around the same level as the first set. Not bad by any means. But definitely a little bit of a downturn for me. Um, the late night messenger. Let's talk about that one first. This one was interesting, pretty open ended, and that's about it. Not much to really talk about with it. So, this dude, this is in a time before, modern times and everything, don't have all like technology and cars and shit. This dude reads letters and stuff for people who are unable to. Because in that time, that was a fairly common thing. Not everyone was literate during those times. So he that's his job, and he's called late at night for an urgent reading. And he's like, money's money, so goes off. On the way there, he ends up meeting this guy who is smoking a cigarette and everything, needs help with a light. Talks to him. He seems like an ordinary guy. But the dude continues on, ends up finding his way to the house, and once he gets there, he talks to the family and gets the letter, and he finds out the guy he met on the road is a ghost, the spirit of someone who was killed for doing some unsatisfactory work to gain money for his family. He was killed, and now the family is being sent a letter being threatened themselves if they can't get the money that is owed in time. However, this dude, the reader, chooses not to divulge that information, lying to the family about what the letter says, saying that, oh, your husband's safe, he'll be back, he just went on a bit of a longer trip and everything. And then he ends up leaving, and right outside of the gates finds the spirit of the husband again, this time all mangled and bloody looking instead of, nice looking. It leaves it open by not expressing whatever happens with the family or how the reader reacts at this point to the husband. There's a lot of questions left in the air, and it's too simple. That's my biggest issue with this one. It's not bad, it's just too simplistic. The instant you see the guy, it's like you automatically assume he's a ghost. There's two options. It's either he's a ghost or he's some kind of weird demon thing. There's really no in between there, I feel. I feel like that's kind of just the vibe that the story was giving even by that point. So it's like when he's a ghost, and his story with his family and, doing the bad stuff to make money and all. It's like, even the line, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something along the lines of oh, if my family ever found out what I really did to make money, ooh, I'd be dead. And it's like, okay, hammering this in a bit. It just felt a little too blah to me. Again, I don't expect these to be really super scary or anything, but it wasn't that interesting or exciting or anything. So then we got into don't use this dating app, and interestingly enough, for one that has no kind of huge horror elements in terms of supernatural or, slasher or anything like that, this was the best one of this set. Because it was real. This was definitely a more realistic horror story, centered on things that are, very possible to happen in real life. In fact, things like this have happened in real life. I've heard stories about very similar occurrences. This woman's at a bar waiting for a date she met on a dating app. He never comes, so she strikes up conversation with the bartender, And yeah, and it turns out pretty friendly, but she ends up finding out that the dating app apparently is linked to some shady shit. She ends up heading out, but not before the bartender, Elliot, asks for her number, or rather asks her if she'd be willing to go out on a date. And she politely declines and heads out. As she's driving, she eventually sees a car pull up behind her and start flashing its lights. She expects the person to just want to pass, doesn't think much of it. But when the car pulls up beside her, it's Elliot, and he's yelling to her to stop the car, and eventually pulls out a gun. At this point, like being scared and everything and freaked out, she does naturally stop the car, get out, put her hands up, get down on her knees. She's crying, freaking out, which completely fair. But we find out that Elliot's not after her, he's after the guy in her back seat. The guy she had been waiting for on a date, for the date, was hiding in her back seat. Because apparently, this app is used by a bunch of creeps and dangerous people to very clearly do bad things to women. But Elliot, with the gun pointed at the guy, he has the girl call 911. The cops come and arrest the dude. And everything seems to have worked out. She's very thankful to Elliot, but still just politely declines possibility of a date. And then the story ends with the continuation of the horror portion of it, by showing that Elliot takes a picture of her car, goes on the dating app, finds her address, and is just as much of a bad guy and a creep as the guy who was in her car. So, yeah, and it ends there. It just ends. We never know if anything ever happens or whatnot. So it's another one that's kind of open-ended. But this one was like actually really good, and again, because of the realism. Shit like this happens. Women meeting people on dating apps, even men meeting people on dating apps, and NBs as well, who are lured into dangerous situations or are meeting up with people and end up going to like a second location alone and get in a very bad spot because of it. Even people have died through things like this. And it's one of the biggest reasons I've always been very wary of dating apps. It's just, I don't trust them, and I don't trust the people on them. Like, even if you can meet someone in a public location, it's like, people will play the long game, and I just don't trust. I don't have enough trust and faith in that. I'd be too afraid. I'm just too afraid. It comes down to. But yeah, the twist at the end with Elliot being a bad guy, I guess you could say, as well. Like, that was really good. I think that really helped sell the story and really helped sell the theme of it. And it's like, I was starting to figure it out as it was going, too. It's like, we see him coming along, and it's like, oh, maybe he's trying to warn her or something. That's like going through my head as he's like, as we see that it's him and he's yelling out to her to stop the car and everything. That was actually my first thought before like anything happened. I'm like, maybe he's trying to warn her, and then he's like pulls out the gun. It's like, oh, maybe not. Maybe I was wrong. But then it's after she gets out of the car and he's like, what do you want from me? It's like, it's not you. And it's like, oh, maybe I was right. It's like I kind of kept going back and forth with that, and I like that. I like that it kind of kept me second guessing myself. That's kind of what I want from these. But then we go into the final one. I'm a 911 operator, and this one was very short and really bland, I guess you could say. Like, this was, I think, the weakest of the three. so it's really simple. This guy calls the 911 operator late at night, um, and he tells the operator, I got up to get a glass of water," which, obviously ordinary thing. "And there's this guy running in circles in my front yard, like 10 feet from the window." And so the 911 operator's getting the info and, doing what they do. And he's like, "Oh, wait, now this guy is just stopped and he's doing a handstand and just staring at me with this big grin." And again, the 911 operator's talking him through it, trying to figure out what's going on, staying calm. And it's like, "Oh, now I turned away for a second to make sure the deadbolt was locked. Now he's up against the window, face pressed against it, and just grinning." And so at this point, the operator's like, "Is there anywhere you can lock yourself in while the police are coming?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can lock myself in my room." And he's like, "Are you sure you're alone there?" And he's like, "Yes, I'm alone." And then we find out he's like, the guy's shaking his head. He's like telling me something. He's like telling me, "You're not alone." And then you see someone like behind the guy on the phone, and it's just like, I just feel it was super bland. Like, if you don't want to reveal what the two invaders, I guess you could call them, are, that's fine. Like, if you don't want to reveal if they're actually people or if they're, something else, that's fine. But you have to do more with them. Like, yes, this is creepy. The idea of this, if you saw it in like real life, obviously this would freak you the fuck out. But it's like there's too many questions, too many openings for this, and it's just I just couldn't get into it. It just felt like there wasn't enough to it to really like sell the story. Excuse me. I just feel like there needed to be a little more info, a little more something to really sell it. But I mean, I wouldn't say any of these three were bad. It's like, again, I'd put them on the same level as the first set that I did. Not bad by any means, but just they needed to be more. And maybe it's just because I felt like I was spoiled with that second set, which ended up being a lot better and a lot more fun and exciting and interesting. Maybe I just felt spoiled by that, and that's why I feel like this one just didn't live up to it. But again, I'm not saying that these three were bad by any means. And again, I really liked the second one. They just weren't as good. They just didn't quite live up to what I hoped to continue to see in these. But that can happen. The stories like this always range. Some of them can be really, really good. Some of them not so much. So this set just wasn't the best set comparatively. But hopefully we'll get better in the next one. So tell me in the comments what you thought of this set of Snarled videos. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.